Anila. Welcome to Vet Inspo Talks. I'm excited to have the admissions officer / coordinator of the UC Davis Vet School on the show today, where we'll dive into life at UC Davis, admissions requirements, and the tips and tricks to becoming a successful student. So please tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Like as you mentioned, I'm the admissions coordinator / admissions officer for the School of Veterinary Medicine, specifically for the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine program.
Yep.
It's so nice to be at this part of campus again, since I also was an undergraduate here as well. So it does bring back really good memories. And as far as my role with UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, I primarily do work with students and the general public. So that's everyone from like high school students to college students, undergraduates, also students that are at the community college level, whether they're completing their term before, and transferring into a 4-year institution, or they're just going back to complete their prerequisite courses for the program. I also manage the student coordination of some of our events and ceremonies, such as commencement and white coat. And then I also work really closely with our student ambassadors and getting them scheduled for various outreach events and activities, as well as managing their schedule for their professional development trainings.
That's important.
Yeah, so one unique and I would say extremely rewarding part of my role is that I get to work with students that are at all different stages of their career within veterinary medicine. So, like I mentioned, whether that's before they get into the program, and then with the first years, I have that small touch point in the beginning with the white coat ceremony. Yeah, so one unique thing about our program is that we do have our white coat ceremony within like that first week of school, just because students are going to be in that clinical setting starting day one. And so within that first Friday of school, we'll have the white coat ceremony, and then I work with our second and third year ambassadors, and then I have that final touch point with commencement. So
that's awesome.
I
know.
And
then you were mentioning that you were a student here in undergrad, and how has that life been?
It was, I honestly, that's the reason I ended up coming back to Davis. I really enjoyed my time here. I really enjoyed the collaborative environment and that sort of thing. And so that really did draw me back to the university.
Yep, that makes sense. Now, when we're starting to talk about life at the UC Davis Vet School, what makes UC Davis so unique?
Wow, there's so many things. I would say, number one, it's definitely our students.
Yeah.
We work with an incredibly diverse group of students that come from all different walks of life and that are extremely passionate about what they do and bring in a lot of different talents as well. I will say they're probably the reason why we are currently number one in the country. And then another unique thing about our program is that we do offer various scholarships as well. So about $100 million, we have about $100 million in endowed scholarships, and then every year we award about $4 to $6 million as well.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I know. And then we also have our veterinary medicine teaching hospital right on campus, or our VMTH, and within our VMTH, we see about 50 to 60,000 patients a year. So students do have that access to different unique caseloads. Let's see. Also, the collaborative environment. Like when I work with our student ambassadors and we do like the various, outreach events and activities, whether that's like information sessions, career panels, participating in conferences, one thing that they always mention is how collaborative it is over here, especially on the vet med side of campus. Just hearing from their other classmates at their schools, they hear about like that competitive environment that they have, and so they're very fortunate to basically be one close-knit community, like essentially one big close family. So
that's what I heard a lot about my friends that are vet students here. They're like, everything is so close together, we're all friends, we all collaborate with each other, and the competitiveness is not really there as in other schools, and that's what they really value in, a very great school as Davis.
For sure.
And then the second question is going to be, how is the work-life balance maintained as a vet student?
Also based on feedback that I receive from our ambassadors, because they're in classes all day and then they do have to like schedule time for studying and everything like that, it's extremely crucial that they schedule time for hobbies and outside activities. Also, whether that be like, participating in sports or in clubs. So we do have about over 40 different clubs on campus, and a few of which that are also non-academics related as well. So just scheduling that in. Another thing that I've noticed that our ambassadors, it's really important for ambassadors is to stay physically active. So just whether that be, walking their dog or going on a run or going to the ARC before or after class, just because it helps them with concentration, just with their mental health and that sort of thing. So I feel like once they're able to incorporate those things, then that work-life balance just naturally flows in.
Yeah, like you mentioned, school-life balance is very important, especially with a really rigorous schedule.
Exactly, yeah. So scheduling it in is important. That's
yeah.
probably key.
Yeah, awesome. And then when we're talking about like the admissions requirements, can you please tell me more about the GPA requirements, the animal vet research experience requirements, and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. So as far as the GPA requirements go, we do require a minimum of a 2.5 GPA. Mm-hmm. And for our program, we're looking at 2 different GPAs. So the first GPA is going to be your most recent 45 semester, 68 quarter units. Typically that's counting like your last 2 years of college.
Right.
And then if students aren't planning on taking a gap year or anything like that, they will typically be applying their at the end of their junior year, beginning of their senior year. And then the second GPA we're looking at is the science GPA, so pretty much every single science course you've ever completed. So the unique thing about those 2 GPAs is that there's always ways to improve it since we're not looking at the cumulative GPA. So if you didn't necessarily do so well like towards the beginning of your undergraduate career, you could either retake courses or take additional science courses.
Yeah.
And so just having that upward trend in grades is going to give you like that competitive edge as well. Yeah, and then in terms of veterinary experience goes, I'm so glad you asked that question, just because we do require 180 hours of veterinary hours. We don't have any requirement for animal experience, but also is it good to have as well.
Yeah.
On our admission statistics, you will actually notice that students, the hours range anywhere from 180 hours to 20,000 hours.
Oh, wow,
so the average is about 1,500 hours. However, I always stress, like, as long as you meet the 180 minimum and you've diversified that in some capacity, you should be good to go. Just because we do understand obtaining those hours may not be as easy, whether that's to do with not having the resources for it or depending on location and that sort of thing. So we like to make the process as equitable as possible.
Yeah, especially during COVID. I
exactly.
know, that must have been really difficult to acquire some veterinary experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
for sure.
Going into this application cycle, it is, we do have like the students that, started like their academic career right when COVID started too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely, that's definitely a big part of it.
Yeah. And then the third question is going to be, what makes you stand out as an applicant?
Yeah. So I would say, number one, you do want to focus on those GPAs and trying to increase like, your most recent GPA, 45 semester or 68 quarter units, and your science GPA. And then number two, I would say also your letters of recommendation. So our admissions committee will do a deep dive within those letters of recommendation. So you do want to make sure that you are choosing those references that can best represent you and that are going to give you that glowing reference. And then another thing our admissions committee will look at once you make it to the holistic review process is various different attributes and competencies. So looking at like your resilience, your ability to adapt to different situations. Also looking at like your communication skills, your critical thinking, and emotional intelligence. So kind of just capturing that within your application. So they will be looking at like your personal statement, your explanation statement, your achievements. So making sure that you are able to highlight those different attributes and competencies within your application.
Yeah, and I feel like all of these attributes do help in the future. If you want to become a vet student or a veterinarian in the future, you need to be super diverse in your experiences that you bring forth to the table. And
yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, like I say to students, like, it very much is like a people industry.
Yes.
As much as time as you do spend with animals, you do spend that time with
That's true.
With, whether it be the clients, other faculty, your colleagues at the hospital. So
yeah, that's 100% true. And then when regarding some tips and tricks for becoming a successful student, what are some tips and tricks you would like the audience to know?
Yes, I would say, especially like if you're an undergraduate student, I would say figuring out exactly what study habits work for you.
Yeah.
Just because we understand like students do learn in different various capacities. So luckily we kind of have that built into our curriculum where we have not only lectures and labs, but also like case-based learning and that sort of thing. But you just definitely want to figure out your learning style. Luckily the lectures are also recorded too. So students are able to go back and, make flashcards or draw out diagrams and that sort of thing, so that way they're able to retain the information better. And I feel like if you go into vet school like already having those strong study skills, then you'll be able to get through the curriculum a lot better.
Yeah. And then how fast-paced is the curriculum? Because I've heard, people saying it's like a fire hose, it's never turning off. How do you say it is?
It is a little fast paced, but I would say like compared to like the undergraduate program here, it's a little different just because it is semester based, and not only is it semester based, we are on a block system, so you are learning like bits of content at a time. So yeah, your first 2 years are going to be like your foundational years, and then in your third year, that's when you're going to choose your focus, as well as diving into your medicine courses and your surgery courses, and then your fourth year is going to be purely clinical rotation. So yeah, that does go by fast.
Yeah, awesome. And then I always ask all my speakers the same question, and it's going to be, what would you tell your younger self if you can go back in time, and why?
Yeah. I would probably tell myself, everything's going to be okay. I know as cliche as that sounds, it's just like when I was an undergraduate student here, I felt like I was really focused on like maintaining those good grades, and if I didn't do so well on a test, I was always so hard on myself. And so just letting myself know everything's going to be okay. If not okay, even better than what you expected. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. It's been great having you on the show today and, sharing your insightful knowledge with us, especially for my audience. They definitely want to know a little bit more about, applying to vet school and what vet school offers for the students. And then for the audience, thanks for watching, and see you next time on Vet Inspo Talks.
Thanks for having me.